My first message to you is you have reason, and this many speakers earlier have spoken about also, you have reason to be scared. You have to be very, very afraid. Because what I'm going to tell you is actually reasonably scary. And there are three of us who have been into the belly of the beast, Naresh, Ashwin and me, who have been into the belly of the beast, that is the government. And we have worked at close quarters within that beast. The point that I tell corporates is the following. We have this balance sheet that corporates put out, which has a top line, bottom line, spending on talent, spending on capital goods, etc., and one bottom line. I think that picture is missing something very, very important. That picture will be a lot more prettier if the city worked for the people who had created the jobs and the investments. It is not looking so good, and you're buying different shades of red ink purely because the city, the place that's supposed to be a facilitator for your investment and your business, does not work. So the point that I try to make to corporate CEOs, and I've been making this speech to CEOs across the country, is you actually have a vested interest to make the city work. We had a social contract in this country which is the following. The government, the private sector was supposed to be about job creation, paying your taxes. It changed to paying your taxes and your bribes. And then you expect the government to deliver the civic services, the law and order, and basically security and what have you. That was really our unstated, at the end of the day, the contract between government and the private sector. Unfortunately, 60-65 years after independence, that contract is broken. It doesn't work. Now we can analyze, we can do all kinds of stuff, but do you want to keep analyzing this as the business makes less and less money as we go forward? Or do you decide that we are in a collective hellhole together, and therefore we need to find ways out of this hellhole in a more joint, collaborative manner? So that really is my first message to occupiers and corporate sector. Thank you. You have invested millions of dollars in this city and many other cities in India. You're now in this collective hellhole. So you have two options. You can keep demanding of government, do this, do that. It's not going to happen. As I told you, some of us have been in the belly of the beast. You can make all the demands you want. It is not going to happen. Or you take a second option, which is to say, okay, I've gone ahead and made these investments. I'm now in this hellhole. What can I do in this space? That really, to my mind, is really the big message where I want to position what we need to do. Second, coming from here, is the issue. The problems of our cities, Ashwin and others have spoken about it, are super complex. Even if we put our best private sector managers and you gave the leadership over of this place to Ken Livingstone and Rudy Giuliani and all that stuff, it is still a complex one. And therefore to think that somebody can magically fix the city for you is a pipe dream. And as Ashwin rightly mentioned, different people can bring different skills. The answer lies in finding collaborative ways of making the place work. It requires government to have the humility to say, boss, I need some help in this space. And the private sector to drop its disdain of all things government and political, etc., to say, yeah, I am also ready to do my bit to make this work. I really think that this collaboration is the way forward in this space. We have quite a few initiatives. It's not a plug for some of the initiatives that some of us are involved in. There was talk about Imagine Bangalore. We have another thing called City Connect. Some of us historically used to be members of Bangalore Agenda Task Force and the like. I think what the corporate sector can do is to try and find out that if there are people in the society who are trying to find solutions to various problems, and you believe that some of them have the contours of a possible solution in this space, how can you support them? I think is an important thing for you to think about in terms of things. And let me just give you one or two examples of some small ideas that we are all toying around with. And I think Naresh spoke about it. What he showed you about Tanjapa Circle is an idea called a neighborhood improvement plan. Some of us are trying to work with government which will endorse that any tax-paying person or an institution can come forward with a plan for the neighborhood, and if in principle it is accepted by the local body, we can go ahead and implement that neighborhood improvement plan. We can do it with our own funds, we might do it with mixed funds. For example, the recent waste thing which was done in Freedom Park was actually paid for by BBMP as something good to do for the city, but run by people in the private domain to pull a kind of a joint project. So a neighborhood improvement plan is an idea saying that you could have plans to improve your own neighborhood, and there are people in Imagine Bangalore who are working with government trying to get us chapa, so you will get a certificate hopefully if it works out as we are planning, that this is the neighborhood improvement plan that we are all subscribing to. Some people put up the money and we implement it, and Nanjapal Circle looks the way Naresh showed us. Or at another level, there is, as we speak, HSR layout, the corporator is working under another Imagine Bangalore project with Embark to come up with a vision of how HSR layout can look for the next 10-15 years. So the visioning exercise is going on with the community. The next part of that is to make that into a plan which can see the light of day in terms of HSR actually growing that way. That's one example. Now we have campuses which do 100 acres, 150 acres. So we are talking about another idea there, and all of these are ideas that we need to go out and socialize to make it happen. And trust me, when you go out and socialize and work with these people, you can actually make some serious change happen. So here's the idea. If somebody is coming and doing a 100 acre, 150 acre development, they surely have the muscle to go to government and say, give me a mini town planning scheme for 500 or 750 acres. Naresh said, when I come out of the campus, I go and hit the drain. I'm saying, after I come out of 750 acres of my extended campus, I will hit the drain. So can we start coming up with a thought which says, a company that goes out and makes a 100 acre, 150 acre must demand of government a mini town planning scheme that extends to about 500 to 700 acres so that that area starts improving. The way to improve the city is to do this creeping incrementalism, this neighborhood improvement plan, these large campuses through mini town planning scheme, because I don't think there's going to be one magical day that somebody can come and say, I'm going to redraw Bangalore into something else which is going to be one magical kingdom. It's not going to happen. So the way to do it is, where all we have spheres of influence, can we get the government to think differently? And my own experience really is, for example, you take our own experience of some of us who are working in the waste issue. When we started this engagement, the commissioner strongly felt, when he took over, the BBMP commissioner, that more landfills were required, and that was the investment required. 4-6 weeks of working closely with him and him looking at alternate views, he is today of the view that segregation and decentralization and bulk generators managing more of their own waste is the way to go forward, and he is not pushing for more landfills, which he has realized is not sustainable. So this is a very, very serious government officer in this space who has turned 180 degrees with pure involvement in a collaborative manner, saying, boss, there could be other viewpoints, and let's not just drive down the one that we go out and do another 5 landfills. So that's really the collaborative idea that I want to mention. I want to quickly, lastly, summarize. I like the fact that somebody summarized that what we can do as FMs and occupiers. There was talk about waste. Clearly, all of you are becoming zero waste as a goal, and we'll come to the FM zone separately with that story of how you can be, is an obvious way you can help the city, and you use that PR in any way you want. Because if the bulk generators don't have that waste coming into the city stream, you're automatically solving a big part of the problem. There's talk about energy, but I just want to focus the last one, restate it. Don't let go of this voter registration idea. In all your companies, tell your HR, tell your CEOs, and push for the voter registration. Because I really believe that if we can get 100,000 or 150,000 new voters into the whole stream, you can actually change the way this politics of the place works, and that's an important part. Yeah, so there is Smart Vote, for example. Ashwin mentioned it. So Smart Vote is a body that's already working in this space. They went to Biocon 3 weeks ago, got 3,000 people. I think Wipro is going to get them. We are hoping for 15,000-20,000 people. That's serious new voters with new thinking about politics in this place, which needs to be encouraged. Lastly, before I come to what GIREM is trying to do, because I'm a fellow traveler with Shyam on this journey, went to Cochin with him. One or two things that makes me hopeful about the future, though I told you be very afraid. One is, of course, there are enough examples of this collaborative happening. But here's a prediction from a market researcher. You know, initially, we used to sell that India as a country has arrived. Okay? That used to be the slogan. So in Davos, it was India everywhere. In fact, the other day, Naresh tweeted something that I happened to mention in passing. Currently, the advertising still says Incredible India. We don't need an incredible India, we just need a credible India. And we need to drop the in part of the incredible India. But anyway, the first phase was selling India. It was India versus China, then India was and China. Of course, today again India seems to have become a little less relevant. But it was selling of India. Second phase was the selling of the state. Vibrant Gujarat versus global investor meet versus emergent Kerala versus something else. So state chief ministers going, trying to meet the NRIs and trying to get the state going. The third one, which is inevitable with urbanization, will be the battle of the cities. It will be the Bangalore versus Hyderabad versus Coimbatore versus something else. That is definitely going to be the final battlefield in this whole space. Hopefully Naresh's directly elected mayor also will come in at that particular point of time. But we will get there, and that gives me a lot of hope that the battle will be fought on the fact of cities. And that just brings me to the last part, is where does GIREM and planning forward really come in? GIREM is a not-for-profit which has occupiers as its members. Developers are interested in this whole thing. Is actually taking a great